Welcome to Sisters in Crime's Murder Monday, where authors talk about their crime craft. My name is Jack, and I'm a bibliophile, copywriter, occasional broadcaster, podcaster, and member of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime since 1991. My guest for this month's Murder Monday is bestselling UK author Emylia Hall, who lives in Bristol, where she skates, writes, and dreams of the sea. Hey, Emylia, how are you going?
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Jack.
And we've got to say it's skateboarding, it's not roller skating. It's like,
It's
10 years
good.
ago, it wouldn't have even been a consideration, but now skating is back in all its forms.
It is. And I started 3 years ago when my son learnt to skate. And I just thought that looks too much fun. I want to get in on that. So I'm all in and I love it.
Oh, well, look, I used to rollerblade when I was a lot younger, and my coordination was a lot better. Uh, like, and I don't think I could get back on my skates. One, because I don't live anywhere where there are footpaths, but um, but I don't think I've got the coordination. So I'm really impressed that you've hopped on the skateboard because that's not as easy as it looks.
No, it's a challenge. The stakes are quite high because when you
Yeah.
come off, it really hurts. I used to snowboard quite a lot and the landings were a lot softer on snow, but
Ah,
it's a lot of fun and it's such a lovely change up from writing when you're
yeah.
at your desk and you're in your own head all day and then to just be able to go out and just think about nothing apart from trying to stay on a board at all costs is really freeing.
Because I suppose I've just completely distracted ourselves. So I'll get back to the introduction. So Amelia started writing novels in 2012, and gosh, they are gorgeous. But luckily for us, she turned to crime with the Shell House Detectives. It's the first in a series with Ali and Jade, and it's set in and around a fictional village in the South. And the book became a Kindle top 10 bestseller. The rights were option for TV. It was quickly followed by the Harbour Lights mystery, the Rockpool murder, and the death at the vineyard. And I was trying not to look behind me at the titles of that one. But they are considered contemporary cozy. They have a bit more bite than that, though. Amelia, could you give us the elevator pitch for the Arts Trail Killer, which is out this month?
It is. It's out next week, and I have a copy here in all its glory. I think it's my favorite of the covers. So it's springtime in Porthpala,
Yeah.
and annual arts trail has come to town, where creatives open the doors of their homes to show off their work, but they're opening them to someone quite evil, and rumors of a serial killer start to stalk the dunes.
Oh my goodness. So that's probably one of the best elevator pitches we've ever had. That is fantastic. I mean, I've got mine on pre-order, and I do live at the very, very bottom of the very bottom, so it does take a long time to get to me. And I know that you put up on Instagram like a little sneak peek of the,
Yeah.
and I'm just like going, oh, and you swipe, and then all of a sudden you're just like, I'm gonna have to wait, which is, it's old school, but wow, it's very exciting. I suppose we should get to these now. Are you ready to talk
I'm
crime crime?
ready. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Oh, first cab off the rank. What started you on a life of crime?
So I had been working. I can see the Thousand Lights Hotel on
Yes.
um, shelf behind you, which was the last of my sort of contemporary fiction, women's fiction book club type
Yeah.
books. That's where I was before. And I was out of contract at the time, so I'd have four books with the same publisher. And I was starting off a new one, and it was a kind of a cross-generational friendship story set between England and LA.
Mhm.
And I'd been working on it for about 2 years, 2.5 years, been through three drafts. And my agent was very conscious that because I was going to be moving publisher with this book, it needed to be a big book. It needed to
Yeah.
feel like a big book. And that's quite a scary thing to tell an author. And it's quite a scary thing to think I've got to sit down and write a big book. And I kind of knew that this book that I was writing didn't feel big enough, but I was working on it nevertheless. And I was getting it to a point where it could be that book. And my agent was excited. And just the joy seemed to slip out of the writing process a little bit for me.
Oh,
Yeah, and I love writing, and
yeah,
me, the pleasure in the process is so important.
yeah,
And it just wasn't feeling very fun. And I felt like I was making things up, which of course you always are when you're writing fiction.
yeah,
But you have to suspend your own disbelief as an author. It has to feel real. And it stopped feeling real. And I just thought, I want to do something really different. I want to shake it up and just apply a different part of my brain, learn something new. And that was when crime came in because I was watching a lot of crime drama on TV.
yeah,
It's the place where mine and my husband's viewing tastes really intersect. We're pretty much only watching crime. And I just thought, maybe I should write a crime novel. Maybe that would be fun to. And I think part of it as well is I'm just sort of remembering back to those because it's quite a few years ago now. Um, the sort of books I was writing before, they were sort of coming of age, voyage of discovery, kind
hmm,
of soulful, questy type novels, but it was quite hard sometimes to nail what the plot was. And what I really liked about crime is if you start with a dead body, it's who done it. And actually that it's quite simple. I mean, it's the hardest ever written. I've never felt
yeah.
more challenged than trying to plot a murder mystery. But at least you've got those plot elements that are kind of unarguable. And that really appealed to me. So I threw myself into it and haven't looked back. I absolutely love it. I'm a full crime convert now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, do you start with the plot or the character or something else?
The character, I have the setup, I nail the setup initially.
Yeah.
So for instance, the one that I'm coming to sort of the latter stages of edits now, which is going to be the sixth Jailhouse book. It's set in a hotel. So I was like, oh, cool. How about a luxury hotel? Someone falls off a balcony. So that's the setup.
Hmm.
Then it's all about character for me, and plot always comes from me understanding who my main players are, the kind of people that they are, the kind of trouble they're likely to get into, the secrets that they're carrying, their sort of tricky dynamics between one another, and then
Yeah.
it all goes from there. So I feel I'm quite old school. I love my notebooks, and I always have a new notebook per novel, and I just fill them with pages and pages of writing on character before I even get started, because I feel like
Hmm.
I need characters to become people in order for me to feel excited about writing the book.
So how did you start with Ali?
Oh, say that again, sorry.
Sorry, it's like, how did you start with Ali?
With Ali just came to me quite fully formed.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think it was sort of connected to the pandemic and lockdown because
Yeah.
that time where we were all locked down in our houses and it was winter 2020 and we'd missed our annual trips to Cornwall that year. So my husband and son, we always go camping at this beautiful place called Gwythian, which really inspired the series. And then with my family, with my parents and sister, we'd also take a big trip to St Ives in Cornwall. And we couldn't do either of those things that year. And I felt like I was just missing
Yeah.
Cornwall and missing space with just like a bodily ache. And I've got in my bedroom, I've got this sort of shelf with all my favorite kind of coastal living, like lovely
Yeah.
Cornish. And I was just sitting in front of them, just like almost just crying, thinking, why am I not in Cornwall? And I
It's
just
just
picture,
like, oh no.
I just want to be there. And I
Yeah.
just picture Gwythian is this beautiful beach resort where it's quite wild, but in the dunes they have sort of wooden beach houses, all quite distinctive. And I just pictured one of those with this woman living on her own at the edge of things. And I think that's to do with the lockdown as well, because
Yeah.
it being so intense, like I love my family, I love my husband and son, but when you're on top of each other 24/7, the thought of being alone in a
Yeah.
June house is quite appealing. So Ali kind of grew out of that wish fulfillment of being on my own in the middle of nowhere. But
Yeah.
she's very different. She's in her mid 60s. She's a widow. She'd be married to the local sergeant, Bill Bright, who died around a year ago when the book comes picks up.
Yeah.
And she's an artist. that's another thing I wanted to bring through the books. So I'm really excited about the Arts Trail Killer because Cornwall is so known for its art scene
Hmm.
and from a sort of creative family, creative background. And it's always been one of the things that I've just loved connecting with when I go down there. So I wanted to bring that through in the books as well.
Oh, wow. What's your top writing tip?
Excuse me. My top tip is write from the heart. I
Yeah.
think when you're plotting and when you're figuring out the mechanics of story, there's a lot of head work
Hmm.
and it's essential, but it's your heart and your emotional connection to your story that's going to keep you coming to the page, that's going to keep you challenging yourself to make it the best book that it can be, pushing through that messy first draft, those tricky edits. Like if you love what you're writing, you'll weather the difficult days and you'll turn it into the best book that it can be.
Yeah. Are you part of a writers group?
No, I'm not, but I'm very lucky to have some very good writer friends that I
Hmm.
feel like I've grown up with as a writer almost. They're people that I've known for quite a few years when my first books were coming out. And we're all very supportive of each other and we read each other's first drafts and stuff. So
Oh, wow.
unofficially, almost, but more just friends.
Yeah. Who is your favorite crime character?
Oh, my favorite crime character.
It can be one of your own.
No, I feel like I need to throw it wider. I say it's a bit of a nostalgic answer, but I'm actually
Yeah.
going to say Inspector Morse. So
Oh,
Inspector Morse appeared in obviously Colin Dexter's novels,
yeah.
and actually, I think they're brilliant. But it's the TV
TV
version,
series. Yeah.
as played by John Thor, that
Mhm.
as a teenager I completely fell in love with, and I wouldn't be writing crime today if it wasn't for that series. 33 episodes. I've got the box set in the other room. I wouldn't be writing crime if it wasn't for just loving Inspector Morse.
What is the hardest part about being a writer?
I think the hardest part, probably, but also the most rewarding part,
Hmm.
is that it all actually no, it's a two. I've got a two-part answer. I
Yeah,
think the
yeah,
hardest part is probably that it all comes from you, that everything you make happen on a page comes from your imagination. You're literally creating something out of nothing, largely on your own.
hmm,
And you're not doing that in any kind of a vacuum where you're heading off to an office, you're putting on a different outfit, you're going there, you're writing in the midst of life. So whatever else is going on around you, whatever challenges and responsibilities, that's all sort of that doesn't go anywhere, and yet you're in the middle trying to transport yourself to this completely other world and make something out of nothing. Um, that is hard, but it's also a very empowering thing because you realize actually that you are the only person who can fix this. You know, you have supported editors, agents, friends, and so on, but when the chips are down, it's just you and your story and you and your book.
yeah,
And actually, I love that. And I quite like giving myself a self pep talk because there's always some point in the process when I think, oh, I can't do this one. And then I'm always just going, no, Amelia, of course you can, because you've done it before. Get on with it. Just figure it out. So I think that is a hard part, but I
yeah.
also love it. I think probably a, a harder part is the fact that once your book is finished, it's no longer yours, it's out of your hands. And what happens to it once it's published is actually largely out of your control.
Hmm.
And I know that's something that a lot of authors find quite hard to reconcile. And certainly in the past, I've struggled with it. But I think I'm very lucky now to have Thomas and Mercer as my publisher. So part of Amazon Publishing, they're absolutely brilliant. And these books are finding a readership like I've never enjoyed before.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it's a series and there's a new book every 6 months and they're being pushed and they're finding readers more and more with each book, that feels really exciting. And I feel very well supported. I'm also very, very lucky to be in that position. But I know that often, you finish your book, you've put your heart and soul into it, and then it can be quite dispiriting when it goes out into the world and like three people read it. Um, but I feel
Yeah.
very grateful to have the publisher that I do and for this series to be finding so many readers.
Next question. It's like, oh, we're getting close to time. What's the best reaction you've had to your writing?
Oh, I've had some really lovely reactions
Yeah.
from readers emailing me in or going to events. But I think my favorite one is because it just chimed with me. One of my favorite characters in the series is Tim Mullins, the local
Yes.
PC. He's a bit of a cloddish guy, but actually he's got a kind of redemptive arc through the stories. I've got a very soft spot for Mullins, the
Hmm.
cop. And at an event I was doing down in Cornwall in Penzance, someone put their hands up and they said, Mullins is my favourite character. Will there be a spin-off series? And I loved it. Because of course there won't, of course there won't. But I just loved the fact that they wanted it and they love Mullins as much as I did. So that was really cool.
Oh, that is gorgeous. That is so lovely. Oh, we've got a few more questions, maybe. How important is place in your writing?
Very
Yeah.
important. As I explained, the books grew really from just wanting to be somewhere and not being able to be there. And still now, that wish fulfillment, every time I sit down on my laptop, I feel like I'm writing myself to this beautiful corner of the world that I've got such strong associations with that I really, really love. And it's, yeah, it's a joy to write in that space and to kind of transport myself. But also, there's so much opportunity for leveraging that landscape for menace. When you're in a wild beach place, as you no doubt know, like the landscape itself can be an aggressor. There's loads of potential for drama to be magnified because of the natural landscape and the sea, which looks
Oh,
beautiful,
yeah.
but you've got to know its power. If you can harness that as well in the story to bring extra tension and drama, then all the better. So I always look to how the landscape can bring a bit of punch to the story as well, but also those moments of respite and loveliness that I think we want when we're reading cozy crime.
Yeah. Would you ever move down south?
I feel like I live there in my head already. So
Yeah.
I think when you
So
put it in
would it
my
stop being a holiday place if you moved down?
Yeah, we go a lot on holiday, and I go on two writing retreats a year,
Yeah.
one on my own and one with a novelist friend of mine, Lucy Clark. So I get a really good Cornwall fix. We love Bristol, the city we live
Yeah.
in. My son's here. Maybe when I'm an old woman, I'll be like Ali. I'll go and live in the dunes. That would be great. I'd be happy with that.
Well, we do have one final question for you. It's a question we ask all our authors, and it is, how would you get away with murder?
Ah, I think about this quite a lot, as I'm sure a lot of the do who appear on your podcast, because you need to think about how it's possible. I still think a good hard shove from a great height. You can't really beat that, can you? Because I mean, it's not given that the person's going to cark it, but it's not very traceable. And as long as you've got gloves on or something, it's not that trackable forensics wise either. So all those lovely Cornish cliff tops, I just look at them and think, yeah. So a
Oh,
shove from
that's shut everyone up. Ah, that's wonderful. It's just like, well, no, it's not wonderful, but it is wonderful. Thank you, Amelia, so much for joining us on Meta Monday. I can't wait for my copy of The Arts Trump Killer to arrive. And now that I know it's like a 6 month thing, I can pace my anticipation a little bit more appropriately. Murder Monday interviews are available on Sisters in Crime's YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. I've been joined by Emylia Hall of the Sheller House Detective Series. It is amazing. Go out and buy a copy. Amelia, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.